And
that you get coached.
Sherry, I have a question about the quorum.
Yes. At the table or around the table, we have the voting members of the Developmental Disabilities Committee. Donna Budway is one, and she is participating remotely. And then we have
Barbara Jones of Arlington, a voting member of the committee.
Lynn Cosma, a parent and a member of the DD committee.
Bertram McGann, member of the DD committee, parent.
Okay. I'm Sherry Takamoto. I'm a parent and I'm the chair of this committee. Then we have Tom
Daly. I'm administrative assistant and the recorder for this meeting.
Good evening, Maimunabad Duckenfield, Division Director for Aging and Disability Services.
and our fearless leader.
LaVoice Reed, Bureau Director for Clinical and Developmental Services.
And Del Bria.
Hi, Delbria Walton, Community and Workforce Development Specialist.
Yes.
Newest member to our team.
Yay, welcome. And thank you. Did I miss anybody? Including someone named Liz.
So Sherry, for purposes of the minutes, the voting members are the same as they were last month.
Right.
Is that correct? Okay.
Could I get the name again of the person from the Chesapeake Volunteers of America?
Carrie Cortez.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Okay, next on the agenda are public comments. Does anyone have a public comment that they would like to share today? Okay, everybody's welcome to provide public comment. We will not necessarily be able to discuss the issue that you bring, but we're always happy to hear from anybody who would like to speak. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Tom is now providing our minutes in a format that is consistent with the other committees of the CSB. Thank you, Tom. I'll give everyone a couple of minutes to take a look, and if someone wants to move, if a voting member wants to move to accept the minutes, let me know.
We just need to make a motion and approve.
I'm waiting for
So
a motion.
moved. So
Thank
moved.
you, Donna. The second? Okay, any corrections? There being no corrections, then we will accept the minutes as competently written by Tom. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is Lucy, and you have been like roaringly busy. You want to share with us what you've been up to and what's upcoming?
I do. So we're at a funny place where the General Assembly has ended, but they didn't finish their budget. So they've only kind of ended. So now they'll have to go back again to pass a final budget. That matters not just for money things strictly, but sometimes things are put in as no cost budget amendments, meaning it's just language almost like a law is. And so there's lots of things wrapped up in those budget negotiations that are still in flux. So in terms of the things that we have talked about here, that Medicaid Works budget amendment that would allow people who, with a combination of like retirement income, SSDI from parents, plus their work income would lose their waiver. That amendment that allows them to enroll in Medicaid Works and keep their waiver passed the House and the Senate budget. So there's every reason to believe they'll survive when those budgets are combined, but we don't have it in black and white yet. The same is true of the peer mentoring rate increase, and that's that service for waiver users to get a peer mentor or waiver or people on the waiting list to get a peer mentor to talk them through using services. So that's in both budgets. In terms of what's only in the Senate budget, a look at core services that was offering some basic services to people on priorities 2 and 3 of the waiting list is in the Senate budget only. In terms of funding innovation for waiver services to help our providers develop new capacity, to help them roll out some of these services that came with the waiver redesign, we'd asked for $6 million total. The Senate budget has $2 million and the House has 0. So we'll end up probably somewhere between 0 and 2 million. Both the House and the Senate budget allowed the $5,000 annual caps for assistive technology like portable tech, iPads, etc., and electronic home-based services to be combined. So since that's in both budgets, I think it will happen. But what that would mean is, for example, if someone needed $8,000 of communication equipment in 1 year, they could get it. Or if someone needed to spend $9,000 the year they were first moving into their apartment to kit it out with adaptive technology, they could do that as opposed to doing it in $5,000 chunks. They would have a much bigger budget to work with there, which is a big deal. Both the House and the Senate in language, not in the budget, removed handicap from Virginia code. So that's good. Some things that didn't go great are more flexibility with virtual access to boards and commissions like this. And I think tonight's issue with the quorum speaks to one of those tricky concerns. It will come back next year, but nothing this year. And access to curbside voting for people with disabilities failed again. So we continue to be out of compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act in Virginia, which is really disappointing. Of course, there were, 2,000 or so bills introduced and about 1,000 budget amendments. So if you want to ask about anything else, I'm happy to talk about it to the best of my ability, but there's lots of stuff moving around. I know that lots of families had applied, moving on kind of to that individual and family support program funding, that grant style program for people who are on the waiting list. So they should be hearing fairly soon. And thanks hugely to a lot of Arlington residents who applied to be on that statewide work group looking at waiver issues and giving feedback on how the waiver is and is not working. So I was just going to give a thank you to those folks and invite them to give updates as that group starts to meet. And then as a last quick reminder, we have lots of workshops always going on, but one that we have never offered before, we're offering in April, which is on federal benefits navigation. So just like we talked about, if you have a parent who worked for the federal government or the person with a disability works for the federal government, and we're trying to figure out how does that federal Blue Cross Blue Shield and federal retirement benefits and all those kinds of things impact that person with a disability. Some attorneys are presenting on that in April, and I'm really excited about it. Also in April, we're doing our next Disability and Justice kind of Safety Day in Arlington, and I just was able to send out to folks information about that this morning, and huge thanks to the DHS team for getting that circulating quickly. But whereas before we did outside traffic stops and added in fire and rescue, this time there is a massive indoor component where you can get naloxone training, you can do CPR test training on CPR dummies that will tell you whether or not you're pushing hard enough, and there'll be people teaching you how to do it. You can learn about Project Lifesaver. You can sign up to do our Tech for Independent Living free safety apps. You can get a free DD identification card that tells officers things to know about you. You can talk with the sheriff's office about what to know. I mean, it's going to be very, very, very big in terms of people presenting. So I hope it's very big in terms of people attending. So certainly please feel free to share, and just as appropriate for like the aging community, the mental health community, not limited in any way. And I would say not even limited to Arlingtonians, since we all know plenty of people who live outside the borders of our great county who may benefit too. So feel free to spread far and wide, and of course free. And then we just have our usual tech and supported, special needs trust workshops coming up too for people who just need to know the basics. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Just a comment, Donna Budway, me and Catherine Montgomery are on that DBHDS DD redesign, and we met, I think, in February, Donna?
Yeah, we did. And then we're
Okay.
getting ready to do our individual meetings, I think, is
Yes.
what's the next step.
Yes.
Thank you all very much.
Yeah, that was a great meeting, Sherry. I will just say, I mean, we were really, I think, like the group that I was in, people, it was just a great discussion, and it was very well run, and people were sharing ideas that maybe other people hadn't heard. I think it was a really, really productive bit of outreach. So thank you.
We felt heard.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions for Lucy? Okay, well, then we're going on to the budget show. Who is presenting on that, I wonder?
Sherry, thank you for your kind words. The budget show. I think I do a lot of these, and I think that's the first time I've ever heard it referred to as the budget show. So maybe I ought to take it on the road. Again, my name is Jim Baker. I am the Administrative Officer for Aging and Disability Services here in DHS. I'm really happy to be here tonight. So thank you for carving out some time. I'm going to ask that you save your questions until the end and let me get through the presentation first, and then I will be happy to answer any questions that you may have, okay? So let me start this, and then I will share my screen. Let me know when you can see that.
We can see it, Jim.
All right, wonderful. All right, so again, thank you for allowing me to present to the DD committee tonight. I'm going to talk about the county manager's FY24 proposed budget. So with that, let's kick it off. As soon as I get the slide to move forward. There we go. So I'd like to start off with some FY23 items of interest. These are some things that we are currently doing around the division and within even within DHS that we are currently engaged in FY23. As you all know, we are in putting the finishing touches on the redevelopment of 1212 Irving Street Group Home. You may recall that it was about this time last year that we were just breaking ground on the demolition, and we now have an expected completion date of I believe it's April 6th or 7th, in early April, and then we'll continue to continue our efforts to place residents in the group home and put the finishing touches on all the decorating and the furniture and all the remaining fun stuff that's left to do over the coming weeks. You know, we're really excited about that. The
Jim,
equity.
I'm sorry, just I can't leave without asking. So you're saying that's scheduled to open in April, so you plan to be able to award the contract to run the group home and get people in by April?
No, that's not what I'm saying at all.
Okay.
The construction of the home will be completed in April.
Thank you.
And then as we have kicked off the last couple of years, the equity efforts continue. We are continuing to examine target populations through data collection. Staff are going through the Leading with Race trainings. We have the Race and Equity Advantage Program, REAP, that is engaging in a lot of examination of our programs and processes and systems. We are also conducting, our Department of Purchasing is conducting a disparity study in procurement practices. I believe that RFP was just released and they're evaluating the solicitations now, and it's going to look at how the county procures services overall. So that's something that I personally am very interested in because I've been trying to lead more of a local effort in the way we procure services. And so I'm excited to get the feedback, you know, from from that study and find out what additional guidance might be out there. And then of
Yeah,
course,
she's that first one, Shane, before, what did you say, 4'9" to 4'11"?
I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
she's
can
just
you
under
please
5
mute?
feet. You probably could do one or the
Can you
second,
mute
but
one?
that's what I got.
So you want me to do, maybe it's better to be 5.
I'm sorry, I'm still getting a lot of.
Then we'll unmute Jim.
Okay, just give me 1 second to unmute Kim.
Thank you.
He's gonna have to unmute himself.
Jim, could you unmute?
There, he's muted, so he's not gonna hear you.
Thank
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
No problem. So on the affordable housing and eviction prevention front, this continues to be a major issue in FY23 and into FY24. You know, there's been significant investment in housing grants, permit supportive housing, and AHIF. A lot of there's been a significant amount of resources that are invested in those programs, and there will continue to be in FY24. There'll be a lot more content and a lot more story behind those 3 programs in Anita's presentation in the work session on Thursday. So I would really encourage you as CSB members to join and hear what she has to say. But it has become you know, an area that we are continuing to keep our eye on and have significant concerns over. All right, just some quick Department of Human Services overview. Our personnel is currently at 99 million. Non-personnel comes in at 83, so almost 84 million. We've got our intra-county charges. Those are charges that we charge within the department for work being done. Total expenses come in at 180, just a little over 183 million, and we currently have 788 FTEs overall. This is a 6% expense increase over FY23. In the revenue arena, we have our largest revenue source is, of course, the state funds coming in overall at 26.8 million. Federal close second at 17.3, and then the third largest area revenue stream we have is the collection of fees for service at 5.2 million. This is a 4% revenue increase from the FY23 adopted budget. Total revenues coming in at 50.7 million for the department. Fun trivia fact, DHS is 12% of the total general fund budget, making us the largest general fund department in the county. We, I believe, have maybe one full percent more than DES. So the Department of Human Services is the largest general fund department in the county. Drilling down a little bit more, with regard to the Aging and Disability Services Division, our proposed budget for FY24 comes in at almost $28 million with a proposed revenue budget of 7.3 million. We now have 90.25 FTEs. And speaking of FTEs, we were able to utilize some existing resources within the division and developmental services and create an additional FTE for FY24. Again, that's with existing resources. This was not a new FTE that we got from the county manager. We used existing county funding to create this FTE. Additionally, we added 5 new FTEs in the RAF program for the Dementia Services Grant. Total funding for the RAF the Dementia Services Grant is about $870,000 total for that grant. And they ramped up operations in late October and have already made some impressive strides in terms of outreach and education and training all over Northern Virginia. Just a few other additional increases for ADSD, specifically in developmental services. There was an additional $125,000 that was added for the expansion of a day program, which is the employment readiness program, which will be housed here in Sequoia on the 4th floor. We also received an additional $412,000 for developmental services, residential services, to match the DMAS rate increases that occurred this last year. So that money will go towards funding the services of locally funded individuals, so non-waiver, who are living in any of the any of the group homes that we have agreements with. And then lastly, we have an additional $200,000 for the operational costs of the new group home at 1212 Irving Street. That was $200,000. Just taking a peek across the division, you can see here developmental services is the largest budget program, coming in at 10.7 million. Second is senior adult mental health, which is mostly driven by the Mary Marshall agreement. That's where the budget's housed, is in senior adult mental health. And then you see nursing case management comes in at third, with the community living program as one of the primary drivers for that, offering the home health services to our clients. All right, taking a closer look at developmental disability services. So,
Jim, can you back up on that, on the previous slide, please?
This one here?
Yes, you had, the last thing that you talked about was some sort of services provided in home. What was that called?
Oh, for the community living program through nursing case management?
That's the NCM?
Yes, correct.
Okay, and is that something that was part of the developmental disabilities services before?
No, it's
So-
always had oversight in nursing case management.
So is that to both people with developmental disabilities and to seniors, or all to seniors?
I believe it's mostly to seniors. I'm not aware of if developmental disability or intellectual disability clients are receiving services through CLP. That's something we would have to look into.
Good question. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, that was a clarifying question, so I'm breaking the rules. But...
Okay, no problem. Okay. Focusing in on developmental disability services. So you can see here, we've had steady increases across FY23 and 20, well, the actuals for 22, and then into 23 and 24. On the personnel side, we're seeing a 6.6% increase. That is due to this significant investment from the county manager's office and their directive from the board to provide salary increases to staff, as well as the increases for some county benefits, such as health insurance. I think that Jim, I'm sorry, Jim.
Now, I just need to understand what it is that you're explaining, because before we've been looking at just the developmental disability services. The numbers that you're sharing, are those developmental disability services, or do they include the aging mental health that was added to this bureau or division?
No, this is because this is the DD committee. I am only showing you the developmental disability services budget line.
Thank you, because I couldn't listen and understand unless you told me that. So, okay, thank you. Keep going.
You're welcome. So again, the personnel increases are powered by the county manager's investment in employee compensation for raises, and there are also some increases in benefit amounts for health insurance and such. That's mainly where we're seeing the 6.6% increase. On the non-personnel side, as I said previously, we've got the conversion of the FTE, or I'm sorry, on the non-personnel side, we have the contractual increases and then the addition of the 125,000 for employment readiness, the 412,000 for residential services for the DMAS rate match, and then $200,000 for the additional operational costs at 1212 Irving Street when we do get that vendor hired or solicited and onboarded. Developmental services is 82.6% net tax support, so there's a significant amount of local money that goes into the operation of DS. And current FTE count is 24.5 with the new FTE. Here's just a breakdown by program within, and again, this is only developmental services here. So from the admin and case management perspective, developmental services spends 3.1 million. Transportation is coming in at 741,000. Residential services, just over 3 million. And then vocational and habilitation, which is your day program, your employment programs. Total budget for FY24 is almost $3.9 million. Revenues, as you can see, vocational and residential are funded. The revenue that they do get is funded mostly from the state CSB funds received from the state performance contract. And then for the admin and case management unit, that's a combination of fees for service for support coordination, and then a small amount of state funds that we get through the state performance contract. All right. I just wanted to remind you of some upcoming events. Again, I mentioned earlier that Thursday is from 3 to 6 is the Department of Human Services and Community Planning and Housing Department's joint work session with the county board. They will also go over the affordable housing presentation at that work session. You can catch it live stream on the website or YouTube. Again, it's from 3 to 6. I would highly encourage you all to join in and hear what Anita and our great folks have to say. March 28th is the public budget hearing, and March 30th is the public tax rate hearing. One other reminder on that aspect, if you want to speak at either one of those events, you do need to sign up ahead of time. You can find that information by following the link that I'm going to provide in this presentation on the there's a small form, quick form to fill out, and you can get yourself on the docket to speak. And then, of course, April 22nd, County Board adopts the FY24 budget. It'll be a Wonders Day. It'll sort of represents the end of a long cycle for all of us budget and finance folks. So we always rejoice a little bit on that third Saturday in April. Any questions?
Yes, Jim, I do. You said that the ongoing operating cost for the new employment readiness program is $200,000, and in the budget, 125,000 is being requested for 2024. Is that right?
No, other way around. The operation of 1212, an additional $200,000 is being awarded. For the employment readiness program, it's $125,000, but that's being added to existing resources.
Okay, those are the additions. Okay, and then of the 250,000 that was added to the budget last year by the county board to fund the day and employment services. Do we have an idea of where that money went so I can thank the board when we meet with them this month?
I assume you're referring to the one-time funding that was awarded?
Yes.
Yes, we are sinking it into the any of the renovation and design costs for the employment readiness program that will be here on the 4th floor. So all that money is being utilized and put forth towards that those expenses.
For the build out, okay.
For the build out, for any design, for any of the the operating supplies that we need to buy in advance. It's all being utilized on that front. I don't foresee anything being left over.
Okay, that's wonderful. And so that went into investing into the new program and the building and everything. And then the 125,000 is to actually provide the services to people that are the 15 new people being served by the program. Is that right?
Correct. The $125,000 would be to pay an operator once we get that RFP completed, to pay an operator to provide the services.
Okay, and then the 400-something thousand, that's the local funding to pay for the increases in group home to match the Medicaid rate. Did I understand that correctly?
Correct. So we have a number of folks who well, let me give you an example. There's, as you're aware, there are a number of folks who are housed in group homes that are outside of Arlington, right? So they're not all Arlington residents who are in that group home. So because we only may have 1 or 2 people in a group home that has several in it, we are paying for the supportive services for those folks in that home. What we have typically done is what we do is we model the reimbursement rate for those services after what DMAS was reimbursing for folks. And this last year, when DMAS had their increase, we discovered that we needed to request additional funds in order to keep up with that reimbursement. So the $412,000 that is being allocated to us in FY24 will offset the increased costs for those services.
And so there was additional spending beyond what we originally planned for the 2023 costs for the group home folks, right?
Yeah, we're going to be pretty tight on the residential services side. I would foresee us. We've got some departmental wide savings that we can cover, but we're probably going to be pretty close to over, or if not net, on the residential services side, just because of those increases.
Okay. And then I inherited a treasure from the former chair of this committee, Carol Skelly. She had gotten permission that you complete this spreadsheet that she's kept over the course of several years so she can track the ebbs and flows of funding and spending. So she's kept this since 2012. So if I send that to LaVoice to send to you, can you please get that back to me so I can?
It's been completed. I can forward it to you.
Oh, okay, thank you, LaVoice.
Yeah, happy to provide that information.
Okay,
But Jim, I was letting her know that it's been completed and I will forward it to her.
Okay, cool, great, no problem.
I would greatly appreciate that. And then also to let folks know that Carol has been helping me understand the budget and the historical and how to analyze things. And it's quite a bit. And just let the record reflect that Sherry really appreciates the work that Carol has done in tracking the budget and advocating for services for folks with disabilities. One thing I saw in the budget was something about 40 under the performance measures, something about 40% of clients in competitive integrated employment. And I don't know what's changed that created that increase from 21% to 40%.
You're referring to the performance metrics that are in the budget book itself?
Yes.
So I think what would be best, Sherry, is if you could provide the exact measure that you're referring to LaVoice, and then we can prepare an appropriate response.
Okay. So any questions that we have about the budget, and again, it's important for us to understand what's in the budget, what's behind the budget in order for us to be responsible in our advisory capacity. So I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure.
Are there any other questions? Thank you, Jim. We really appreciate your detailed understanding. Just for future presentations, one of the things that I'm trying to do is make sure that people who haven't been doing this work, and including myself, for many, many years, and there's a lot of acronyms. For the next time you do the presentation, can you please spell out all those acronyms for us?
Yeah.
Sure. Just for your own information, that this was an issue of space. I couldn't spell out all of the program names like within the tables. That's why they're acronyms.
Okay. One of the things I've seen in the past is just one slide that says, here are all the acronyms.
Yeah.
So that when you're looking at this, you understand
Sure.
what's going on.
I'll tell you what I'll do though, Sherry. When I send the presentation, I can put something together real quick so that you guys can do the crosswalk. How does that sound?
That sounds terrific. Thank you. I want to back up Kalia. Okay. I want to back up. Thank you, Jim. Any more questions? I'd like to back up and ask John Dolchar, Laurel Enbrick, and Kalia, I can't remember your last name, entered since we started. Can you please turn off your mic and introduce yourself if you were not introduced at the beginning of this meeting?
This is Kalea Gray. I'm the Senior Program Manager at the Woodmont Center.
Thank you. Anybody else who entered? And is someone named Liz still here?
This is Ann Dollaher, and I have a son, John, who's graduating from the PEP program this year.
Hi, Ann, and thank you for inviting us to your meeting. Anybody else who entered, who came in since we started?
Yeah, this is Liz. I'm so sorry. I wasn't able to unmute because the browser was blocking video and microphone. But I'm here. I'm a parent, and I'm interested in all the discussions going on. Thank you.
Liz, do you want to share your last name? It's not required, but do you want to share your last name with us?
Oh, sure. It's T-E-F as in Frank, E-R-A, Tefera.
Tefera. Thank you for coming, Liz.
Thank you for having me.
I'm obviously responsible for all that.
It's Lord Edelbrock.
Thank you. I have a daughter graduating from PEP.
Thank you, Laura, for sneaking in there. We appreciate it. Okay, next on the agenda, we have LaVoice presenting on what's going on with the graduates. So Ann and Joy, here's your chance to learn what's going on the CSP side.
I certainly hope so. I just have a brief update on our graduates for FY24. I do not have a PowerPoint with this information. It's very simple. Can you all hear me? Okay. So for FY23, the current year that we are in, we have a total of 24 students that we are currently engaged in transition planning for. And by that, we are working very closely with the Arlington Public School transition coordinators. We meet with them once a month, and we've been doing so since September of last year. And we discuss the various interests of the individuals and their parents. And that all gets represented at the transition meeting, where we just discuss, next steps, planning, resources, and different things that are needed in planning for those students. Of those 24 students, we have identified that 15 of them have expressed interest in day support as an option for their adult transition services. 6 have expressed interest in employment. And of those 6, most of them are, if not all of them, actually, I believe, are working, currently working in employment, in independent supported employment with little or no support. And then we have 3 that are exploring self-directed services. Going back to the 15 that are day support, of that number, we have 9 that have expressed interest in our to be developed employment readiness program. As you may recall, that program will have a capacity of 15, and we have been prioritizing 11 slots for our current year graduates. Also of that number, we have 12 of them that are on the waiver wait list. We have 6 of them that have waivers, and we have 5 of them that are not eligible for the wait list, meaning that they did not meet on the BIDES, but they are otherwise individuals that it has been determined have a developmental disability according to the Code of Virginia. And we have 1 that is in assessment and evaluation that was just recently referred, but we are concurrently nonetheless planning for that student in anticipation of them being found to meet criteria for services. And that is what I have.
So, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, LaVoice. At the last meeting, the question was answered that transition services must begin at age 14. Can you tell us the age breakdown of these 24? Are
These are all, so the transition at age 14, that is an APS. That is something under IDEA that is not applicable to adult services. So these are all individuals from the current year. However, that does remind me that of that 24, 6 are what are considered recovery students. And so you may recall for the past 2 years, not the current year, the Virginia Department of Education offered a recovery year for students that were impacted by COVID. With the closure. And so these 6 students would have otherwise aged out last year of June of 2022. They opted to remain in the school system. So the 14, starting transition at 14 is not something that is applicable to our services, that is specific to Arlington Public Schools, and needing to start having those conversations as part of the annual IEP meeting.
Thank you, LaVoice. Of those 24 students that you mentioned, how many are aging out this year?
All of them, 100% of them.
Thank you.
Other questions? I have a question about. Go. Who has a question?
Joseph Albert. Hi, LaVoice. I was wondering, what, and I may be incorrect here, but out of these, has any of the, what options or discussions are housing services ever discussed or talked about during these, with these services for these individuals?
It is something that is discussed. It is not necessarily discussed as part of the transition planning. So for the transition planning, we're largely looking at students transitioning from the school system to adult services, not necessarily where their residential services are. And part of that is because the vast majority, and in this instance, all but one of them, they say they're remaining, so there's no change with their transition. Actually, that's not accurate. About 3 of them 2 of them are moving into independent housing. 1 of them is looking at moving into a group home. But that's not a, so I'm aware that those conversations are happening, but they're not a part of the transition discussions that we're having monthly with Arlington Public Schools. So those are separate conversations that do occur with the other annual treatment planning for those individuals.
Okay, so those occur outside of, but there is transitions that occur either way.
Definitely.
But they occur out, okay.
Yeah,
That's kind of what I was trying to get at.
Yeah, they just don't occur as part of the transition, the monthly transition meetings.
Okay, I really appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, LaVoice, I have under total number of individuals receiving active or enhanced service coordination, the caseload jumping from 253 adults in 2023 to 283. So that's about 31 people.
You're losing me. Does that have something to do with, did we shift topics?
No, I'm talking about transition. So I'm assuming that I assumed that the 31 additional in the budget were students transitioning.
I don't think that there's a core, I'm lost, Sherry.
Okay.
Like, when I talk, and for me talking about transition, I'm specifically talking about transition from Arlington Public Schools to adult services. If you're talking about enhanced case management, is that what?
No, I'm talking about the caseload. I'm talking about the jump in about 40 overall total number of individuals served and 31 adults served in active or enhanced support coordination.
So yeah, I would have to look at that data. So I would go back to Jim's response to the other question. If you have a question specific to what's in that budget book, it would be helpful to put that in a separate question that you could submit for us to look into that. Because I would have to look at the data for that to respond to what you're looking at, what you're referring to.
Okay. Are there any other questions about transition services? Joy, you're welcome to weigh in here if you want. Or Anne?
I'm still here. I was wondering if what the numbers that you were just referring to, I wonder if it's higher because there were some students who were receiving those extra year. Do you think, LaVoice, it has anything to do with that?
If what has anything to do with what? I'm sorry, I'm not understanding the question.
It's okay, Joy, because LaVoice knows how many people are coming from the high school. And she told us that 6 of them were the ones that got the extra year. So I'm just going to ask a question to how does this add up to 31? You know, what's the difference? So thank you, Joy, for that. But do you have anything else you want to add about the transition planning? I know that you folks are working very intently on the transition.
Yes. So like LaVoice said, we do meet with them once a month for all of our students who are exiting, but also, we have our larger caseload of students who aren't yet exiting, but we're still, communicating and trying to help those, the parents and the individuals, identify what the vision is, like what the end goal is, whether they're thinking day supports or support in employment. Every year APS has a transition fair and, we invite all of the parents. And so at the transition fair, we always try to make sure we have lots of, like Service Source will be there, Melwood, lots of different agencies come. So we just try to, make sure that we have opportunities for families to kind of explore what all the options are for transitioning.
Thank you, Joy. And Anne, as a parent of a transitioning student, do you want to share anything with the committee?
I'll just say that we are meeting the PEP parents. We have several classes that we're meeting once a month just as families and sharing information and sharing our experiences and visiting some of the day support programs as well as, other options family site. And we have shared about this meeting too. So hopefully, we'll have more and more people who are attending these because we're certainly, I think, at the point where of great interest.
Great. And LaVoice and I have offered to come to a future meeting as it fits in your schedule and our schedules.
That would be wonderful. So, I'll send you some names.
Okay.
Thank
Great.
you.
Yes, Bertram.
Just got another question. It was just very helpful for LaVoice to clarify that housing is not part of transition planning for her team. Could we maybe get a breakdown between APS and DBH in terms of what aspects of transition they lead or that they're responsible for, including education, employment, housing, and the others that were mentioned, that were already mentioned. No one has mentioned employment, no one has mentioned education, no one has mentioned housing. So it'd be great to know how they are allocated between those two agencies. Thanks.
And if I can clarify, transition planning for residential services is definitely something that our team, our support coordinators, have conversations with individuals about. It is just not a part of the monthly transition planning that we do across from Arlington Public Schools and adult services, because we're specifically looking at what is the student going to do in terms of day support, employment, their meaningful day. So that's the purpose of that. There are other conversations that happen within developmental services about an array of other types of transition. They just don't occur in the course of those monthly meetings.
That's great, and that's the clarification we need. Just who was leading those conversations?
Support coordinators.
Which agencies have the lead?
So we have the lead, and our support coordinators lead those conversations.
Dina, did you have a question or comment? Did Dina disappear?
She sent a message in the chat that she had to jump off.
Oh, okay. Okay, and LaVoice, in previous years, you've had folks interested in going to post-secondary like Nova or something. Do you have any, is anyone expressed interest this year?
No, not this year.
Can I ask?
Of course.
In looking at this, the numbers you just gave it, there's 24 students. 15 of them have already said they want to go to day support. How would you characterize those students? Are they, because there's been so much discussion about presenting employment first.
Yeah.
And right away, that number of 15 out of 24 has already said, we don't want employment, we want day support. Is that the parents' choice, or is it the type of students you're dealing with? Are they people for whom supported employment or other options would work?
It's always the individual or the legal guardian's choice. It's never our choice. What we are shifting, as we talked about previously, is just leading the conversation, starting with employment. And it doesn't mean that we don't discuss other options.
They're just telling you they don't want it.
Well, they're telling us what their choice is. And some of them, at least of that 15, 9 of them, if you recall, are looking and interested in employment readiness. So they're not saying they're not interested in day support. They are interested, and the team concurs, and this is part of some of our conversations in the transition meetings as well. They have barriers that prevent them at this time from being able to shift into employment on day one from the transition from Arlington Public Schools to adult services. So I think that's pretty significant that of that 15, 9 of those individuals or legal guardians are saying, we are interested in employment, just not at this time. And the employment readiness program presents an opportunity for them to get ready for employment.
That's interesting.
So there is a significant shift of the 24 that are geared towards employment, several of them through the employment readiness program.
Okay, let's see how they do.
I have Ellen Bailey followed by Lucia Cluster. So Ellen, do you want to share?
Yes, thank you. LaVoice Reed actually just made the point that I was going to make as a parent of a transitioning senior, that it's, it is the parent's choice, but my choice is informed by my son's readiness. I believe at some point he will be ready for employment, but he's not now. So I think there are limitations to what the day supports seem to offer. There's a gap, if you're not ready for employment when you are ready to transition based on age, but you're showing development and employment potential. I really applaud Arlington County for developing a program that's going to continue to build employable skills and hopefully position my son to engage in supported employment, which that would be my choice for him. So I just want to say thank you and also agree with the point that LaVoice was making.
Lucia?
Yeah, LaVoice, I was just wondering, there's 9 of the transitioning students going to the pilot program, and you said.
Sorry, say that again.
We missed some of what you said.
The pilot program will have 15 total, of which already 9 are coming from this year's graduating school students. Do you already have the other 6 spaces filled? And the second question is, for next year, when we have graduating students a year from now, how to make sure there's enough space for them for that?
Right, that's a very good question. For one, it's not a pilot program. It is an adopted program, so we are proceeding with this beyond just being a pilot program. And we would be at capacity, but the idea, if you recall, is also for individuals to transition out of the program. So the employment readiness program is not designed to have students remaining in this program for several years. The idea is to look at barriers and obstacles to employment. It will be very person-centered in terms of working on outcomes for a particular student or individual in hopes of transitioning them to group-supported employment, individual-supported employment, and that will take longer for some students than for other students. We also are looking at 4 of those spaces being designated for individuals that are currently in a day program, but that have expressed an interest to employment and for which there might be some barriers. So we do hope, and I can't put numbers on it, that come this time next year, that we will have individuals that are ready to transition out of that to, say, group-supported employment or even individual-supported employment, and it'll be staggering, so that we will year to year have individuals that are moving and shifting out of this program and being able to support new people coming into the program. But we will probably never have a time where we'll be able, because now the program is opening, so we have 15 vacant slots. We probably will never have the opportunity to have 15 open slots in this particular program again. But we are, it is fluid in terms of people moving in and out.
Joe, do you still have a question?
Actually, Lucia actually asked my question, so I appreciate that. Thank you. So.
LaVoice, you also explained to me that just like the PCG, the day employment support was talking about hybrid, and you were talking to me about how there may be 15 slots, but some people may be working, and if we could work out how to make all that work, it's a slot, not a person. So some people may be there on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and some may be there on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So if they can make that work, then the person capacity may be larger than the program slot capacity.
Yeah, that's a good point. And we're trying to really look at shifting that across all of our programs and also to give more flexibility, especially for people that are interested in, day support, and employment, some combination of that as well. So of trying to also take that shift, but really also preserving day support for people that really need that level of skill development towards, areas such as socialization, for example, so that we don't have people in day support who really do have the skills to be able to work and be employed.
And then for the employment service providers, do you have any comments about this? And then we'll ask a little bit more for next month's Listen and Learn, but just any feedback or support or comments about this model of services. Can someone let Carol in, please?
I don't see anybody.
She says waiting in the lobby. So any of the employment service providers interested?
Here she is.
Hey, any of the employment service providers have comments or about this employment services program? Okay, there being no comments, any other questions? Yes, Barbara?
LaVoice, do you already have a plan for the staff for this new program and a curriculum, or that's yet to come?
That will come from the contracted provider. So we are not operating the program directly. The county is not. We, in fact, just closed the RFP on Friday. So we are eagerly awaiting, literally as we speak, word from our purchasing office on that.
Right. Good. On a decision?
No, it just closed on Friday, so there's no
Okay, so,
decision. So
yeah.
we're just waiting to see what was submitted.
Just hoping. Okay, great. Okay, so do you want to share any other staff updates, LaVoice?
Yes, I can share. So I am pleased to introduce Delbria Walton, who is here. I'm going to put her on the spot. Hi. Today. Delbria is our, as you know, we had created a new position to really help in supporting implementation of several of the recommendations from the public consulting group work plan or recommendations. So it's a public consulting group study that was done, and also being able to sustain those as well as we develop and expand employment. And so she is our new
Community and workforce development.
Our community and workforce development specialist is her working title. And so she, this is her third week.
Yes.
Her third week with us, and she is phenomenal. So we're already, moving forward with really of having somebody in this position to be able to move several of the recommendations forward. And so we look forward to reporting out on some of that in months to come as well. Let's see. We are also looking to fill Elizabeth's position still. So that position closed last Friday as well. And so hoping to get started with interviews.
Remind us what Elizabeth did.
Elizabeth was our employment, habilitation, transportation contracts manager, which is now contracts analyst. And so we'll be starting the interviews for that position soon, and hopefully we'll get someone in place for that position very soon. Jim has already given you the update where Irving Street is concerned, so I don't have anything to really add to that. We are on the program side. The RFP for the operation of that home closes tomorrow on the 8th. And so we look forward to getting that process rolling in terms of identifying a provider for the home. We have been working with support coordinators on receiving referrals to the home for individuals that we currently work with and support as well. So that's coming along nicely as well. And we're starting to do, likewise. So we know from our transition students for the employment readiness program, those students are, but we're also getting interest from the support coordinators on people that are currently in day program, who are those individuals in terms of being referred as well, because we want to be able to share profiles with the providers for both the employment readiness and the residential program for 1212 Irving Street, once we do have a provider to say, hey, here's who we're looking at. Because ultimately it's their decision on who they accept and not accept. But we're optimistic that it'll be people that we put forward, so we're not concerned about that. We should be starting very soon in terms of the renovations for the space that we're using here at Sequoia for the new employment readiness program. So we anticipate that being a go July 1st. So we're excited about that as well. And the other thing that we are working, I remember the other thing now that I was going to talk to you about. She is starting, as you know, we have been looking to start a stakeholders work group to give input to the short and long-term expansion of day support programming as well. And Carol actually had previously, under her leadership, had identified members of the DD committee that would represent on that committee, in addition to staff representatives from Arlington Public Schools, and a few other key players. I think we had reached out to someone from the ARC of Northern Virginia to be on that group, so that as we progress and move forward in making decisions about that program, of getting input from this advisory group. With Elizabeth leaving and then Del Bria's position being not filled yet, it's just been really difficult to move that forward. So that's something that Del Bria will be a part of. So we're looking forward to getting started with that soon as well. That is
no. What happened last week? That was fantastic.
Oh yes, our art show. Yes, our DE Awareness Month event. Thank you so much. Art show, and I have to pull up the name of the library. I'll put it in the chat room. Westover Library. So we kicked off the DD Awareness Month event on Thursday of last week with an art show. We had 36 entries of phenomenal art. So if you all get a chance to go to the Westover Library to see what it'll be there the entire month.
Great.
It'll be on display the entire month. We have some amazing talent amongst the people that we support. Very impressive artwork that they did. So so that'll be on display. The event was very well attended. Also, so that was great as well. And we also had a good sized number of people that we actually support, some who presented and did art that were actually there. It was a great turnout, great program, great event. So hats off to all of our staff that took part of doing that, and everyone that supported us for that as well. So it's very exciting.
Thank you. Okay, so now my report. First is I want to thank, if Lucy would be now still here, I want to thank Lucy and Diana Monig at the ARC for helping, and of course LaVoice and Maimuna for helping conceptualize a employment listen and learn for next month. So next month, the first Tuesday, which I think is April Fool's Day, is that right? I think that's what it is.
Next, the first Tuesday is the 4th.
Oh, April 4th. Okay, thank you. April 4th, we will not meet as a committee. Instead, we will have a totally virtual, Barbara, you can stay home, listen and learn on employment, and I'm really excited about that. Del Bria is going to present on how the system, what employment services we offer in Arlington and some of the ins and outs of that. DARS will present on what DARS is and how they fit into all of this or don't fit into all of this. And then we've invited the employment services folks to let us know what they're doing, what examples of employment that they have placed for people in Arlington, what they plan to do to recruit more or to find more placements in Arlington, and unique aspects of their program. We are going to complement that with a list that the ARC has produced that has all the contact information, which programs and reimbursements they accept, and which types of employment services they provide. So some of the basic information that all of them would have provided that we would have rolled our eyes back on will not be presented, but it will be provided, as well as the ARC transition guide, which is very, very good and available in many languages. So far, I invited 7 employment service providers. So far, NVLE, Melwood, ServiceSource, and Best Buddies has responded, and I'm still waiting for another 3 folks to tell me yay or nay. So I'm really excited about that. Joy, we want to try to work with Arlington again to co-host this. So I guess now that I know that this is really happening, we'll have, I should just get with Catherine Donovan at the Parent Resource Center.
Yes, you mean for participation on the 4th? For
publicizing it to families in Arlington.
Yes, we can do that. I can talk with Kathleen about having a flyer posted through Peach Star to advertise, but just one bit of information I want to share. I know that's spring break week for Arlington, so hopefully, you know, we'd still be able to get some people to participate or attend, but I know a lot of families may be out of town too.
Joy, thank you for letting me know about that. And one of the reasons that we're doing this is because there are so many providers for day programs for employment, and parents are encouraged to go visit programs, see what works. We're hoping that this will be an opportunity to at least, well, it will be recorded, and so people will be able to see a little bit about each program. And you know, personally, we're trying to generate traffic to folks who are interested in finding employment service providers who actually place people in Arlington. Same for people who are in day services and want to put their fingers in the toes in the water about employment services and want to know more about it. So if folks can't come, that's fine. It'll be recorded, and then we'll try to get Kathleen to also send that link and keep it persistent so that people can learn more about employment services.
Okay. We can also, I was just thinking, aside from posting the flyer through the Parent Resource Center, we can also promote it at each one of the schools too. We can have the transition coordinators promote it with the case carriers at each of the comprehensive high schools, and also PEP, you know, all of the programs that we have as well.
Okay.
What is the time?
From 4 to 6. It'll be the same time that this meeting would have traditionally been.
Okay, the same link.
So it's the calendar sent in advance, so unfortunately, but the good news is when you're in Cancun, all you got to do is know the time difference and have internet connection, and you can attend. So please let folks know. And Joy, you know, even the Medicaid one we had, I know we had elementary school parents that were interested. So the more people can think about work as an option for their young person, I think to some extent, the harder they're going to work to help their children succeed in school so that they are in a better position to succeed in life. So thank you for that. And then also, having listened to a parent of a transitioning student, how overwhelming it is to figure out there's the day programs and the employment programs and all this other stuff. Where do I even start? So now we have to share information with each other. I'm asking 5 to 7 minutes, not 10 to 20 minutes on each program, because it's basically a commercial for your program. We're going to have how to find you and which vendors you accept on another piece of paper, so you don't have to share about that. We want to hear about the exciting parts of your programs. So that will take the place of the April meeting. And then in May, we are going to ask DHS to present on the performance measurements, not necessarily the ones that we do for how are that teeny tiny little piece of state-funded CSB money spent, but what are we doing with the students to the extent that we can, who are receiving both, say, day, locally funded day support and Medicaid waiver funded day support, for instance, so we can have a fuller picture of what's going on. So if anyone has any questions about performance that they want to share with us as we discuss the types of measurements that will be planned, please let me know about that. The May meeting will be the second Tuesday in May, and I'll send something out in the update that I've been sending.
So there's no April meeting.
The April meeting will be a virtual listen and learn. The June meeting will be a virtual listen and learn on day programs. So Lucy, and I don't think Diane's here, but Lucy, I'm going to need your help on helping me scope that one out too.
We're happy to help. We can talk anytime.
Oh my gosh, you guys are so helpful. Like, who am I supposed to call? I don't know anything. So under the same category of not knowing anything, I'm going to share my screen. Yesterday at the executive committee of the CSB, I found out that we are supposed to prepare a presentation that we will provide at meetings with the county board. We meet with groups of 2 people for each board meeting. I don't know how to make this. That's about the, I think I just made it too big. This is a draft that I had to write last night when I went home and said, oh gosh, what am I supposed to do now? And already I'm changing one thing because my Muna gave me some feedback. There's the $125,000 for the new employment readiness program at Sequoia, the $200,000 operational cost for the new group home, and I'm going to put the $400-something thousand instead of the $55,190 for the increase in compensation to match the Medicaid waiver amounts. As a CSB, the CSB executive committee agreed that we will not, that the county has been very, very generous to us. As you see, the DD community is getting a new group home and this employment readiness program. Now, everything, I mean, this is all good and wonderful, and we're always going to want, I mean, and everybody knows it's not going to meet total need, but we are very grateful that that the county board and thank you, Deborah Warren, I can see your face there, that LaVoice, Maimuna, and Deborah have been exceptionally supportive of us and our funding that we're requesting. So, so the first point is we're appreciative, and that we want to make sure that, and just remind them that as the population grows, our need for more people is going to grow, just like they increased the budget to accommodate the additional folks that will be served in the coming year. We are thankful that the board granted $250,000 in one-time funds to respond to the DD committee's request to expand capacity and program choices within the county for DD individuals. As Jim shared, that has gone to set up the new employment readiness program here in Sequoia. And which will be operational in July, yes. In fiscal year 24, this is the part that I need help with, LaVoice. In the budget, there's an additional 31 individuals who will need active service coordination. The typical increase over the past few years has been 5 to 10 students, according to what is in the budget. So I'm going to need some help with that language to clarify it. And so it's just likely that additional ongoing operational funds will be needed in future years, as well as new facility capacity to be addressed through the county's CIP process. Then the last point is, with unemployment rate hovering at 2% and many new businesses moving to Arlington, conditions have never been better to increase the number of Arlingtonians with developmental disabilities who can work in Arlington. We will host that virtual employment event that we're talking about to describe what we offer and to ask employment service organizations to describe what they have to offer and what they are doing to increase the number of jobs for people with disabilities in Arlington. We would like to request the board's assistance in facilitating employment opportunities customized for the unique strengths and assets of people with disabilities in the Arlington County government. We want Arlington County employees to also have developmental disabilities. So this is not a budget ask. We're just kind of putting a little nudge to see if the board has any interest in hiring more people with developmental disabilities who work in the county. And I know Takis has already talked about employment in the county. So, and I think Matt has too. So any comments, questions, additions, points that we did that still need to be covered? And Bertram, I want you to come. I want you to come to those meetings. Okay. Yes, Deborah.
Well, I think this is awesome. I think it's a great opportunity for individuals on the DD committee to connect with county board members and be able to, you know, express the gratitude. I would just emphasize that the county has invested, just 2 points quickly. One is that the county has invested at least $4 million into Irving Street. $1 million was provided by the state. But also that the county board is supportive of that PCG consultant report, and staff are looking for a location for a new day support and employment program that will need to be in the CIP budget. But I just raised that because I think it's important to recognize the CIP contributions of the county as well as the operating budget contributions. And the other thing is too that the county board recognizes that compensation is critical to having staff stay and for recruitment purposes. And to that end has taken a lot of steps in terms of, you know, looking at classifications and making sure that increases are incorporated in the budget. So I just that's part of the overall increase in our budget.
Thank you, Deborah. That's very helpful. And thank you, Carol, for helping me with this this paper, because you saw, I mean, you just stepped in to help today, so I appreciate it. Carol, I noticed your hand was up. You gotta turn up your speaker, please.
Yeah, Sherry, I just put a question in the chat, and I'm sorry I haven't been part of this discussion, but I'm looking at the additional 31 individuals who will need active support service support coordination in FY24. That I believe equivalent to about a full support coordinator caseload. So I'm just asking the question of whether any consideration was given to adding another support coordinator. You know, the majority of that cost is reimbursable by Medicaid, so it's not a cost to the county. However, you do have to ask the county for the FTE. So I'm just putting that out there because I'm curious about it.
Okay. So if I can comment briefly on that, though, those are not necessarily 31 individuals that are new to developmental services. Some of those individuals are already open to us and being supported by us for monitored services, which doesn't mean that we don't do anything, you know, for them. Several of them are already otherwise actively engaged with us, just not receiving active support coordination. So I think that 31 is people for active support coordination, or
the 31's for active, but the total number of individuals you're going to be serving is 40, 56, 42.
Right, across the entire year.
And you have a 2023 estimate, so that to me would be current.
So,
but
right,
Carol,
it still represents people that are a vast number of those people are people that are currently open to us. It's still shifting some of those because they'll get waivers. So we also consider that our graduates, for example, those 24 individuals that I previously discussed, those individuals would be in what's considered a monitored sub-program. But as they move into a service, whether it's local funded or active, local funded or waiver funded, they become active support coordination. So of that 31, 24 of those are students that are aging out of IDEA services, for example, that are already assigned to and supported by a support coordinator.
Okay.
The work.
If it's something that, I mean, since you're going to give me that information about the crosswalk to the
But I need
budget.
the question.
I'll send you the question, but I'll also add to the question whether or not that caseload represents another FTE. Just, Deborah, is that okay to add? I mean, I'm just thinking we might as well ask for it if, after looking at the numbers, it's warranted. I mean, it's not more money it's not more expense for the county. Deborah, I don't know if I know you're on mute, but I don't know if you can weigh in here.
You are free to ask for whatever it is that.
We're going to ask for more, so I'm just trying to weigh.
Yeah.
Politically or practically, we want to make sure that they have enough support to handle the caseload. It doesn't necessarily. I mean, as Carol says, we don't think it adds to the bottom line in terms of the budget. And as we're sharing, I mean, that's a lot. I mean, a lot of the increase this year is going to developmental disability services.
Yeah.
And in, CIP, so everything. So we don't want to be ingrates. We're just trying to make sure that we're helping you have sufficient staff for the caseload so that so staff don't get overwhelmed. I mean, it's part of supporting staff.
Well, let me just say this. If we have a need, a very pressing need, we will figure out a way to make that happen through, temporary employees or asking for permission to add an FTE, out of the budget cycle. I think that it might be best to frame this as, we're paying attention to the caseloads, and this is something that the county board might want to be aware of in terms of future or even closer term needs without making a direct request for another FTE, because I don't think that's going to happen this year. Yeah.
I mean, I just said that we weren't going to ask for anything.
Yeah,
so,
I know.
Carol, you weren't there during that part, but I did. Okay, but thank you, Carol, for bringing that up, because we always want to make sure that we're supporting the services and the caseload so that people don't get so overwhelmed that they want to leave, because then we have fewer people. So, okay.
And we appreciate so much your thinking of that and your advocacy, because it can be really challenging.
Yes.
So we really appreciate that.
So on to that's, if there's no other questions, I would love to hear from the vendors and what's going on in your neighborhood. No one's raising their hand.
Okay.
We're not going to call on people. So.
They might need to unmute if someone is talking. I don't see that anyone's talking. No one's highlighting or flashing.
April's here. We haven't.
And Carrie Cortez is here. And Terrell is here. So we have CRI, VOA, and
Is April still?
She's still here. She's on mute though, so she might have stepped away.
She's still here. Carrie is still here. Kalia is here. So there's several providers that are on the call.
Any providers want to share? I know we always give you 30 seconds to talk about something. Carrie, did you come on screen for a reason?
Sorry, I missed the previous question, but I did want to.
Time for vendor reports.
Nothing really. We are also celebrating Developmental Disability Awareness Month with art and creating the life I want. And so I just wanted to share that. And I just look forward to hearing about all of the new stuff coming next year for you guys. It's exciting to hear it.
Thank you. Any other vendors?
Anyone there from Service Source?
There, yeah.
Well, I don't know that Kelly give updates. I can share for Service Source that we have a new sensory room at the CIC that we are very excited about. We're in the process of equipping it, but that's exciting. We had did some renovations at a space in the rear of the facility there to create a sensory room.
Nice. Okay. Under new business, I just have one thing. The mental health subcommittee has spent a fair amount of time considering how they should be involved or how they might be involved in the contracting statement of work process for contracts, for RFPs, the statement of work for RFPs that are especially relevant to mental health services like residential services or other types of things, not for reams of paper, but for the service side of services. They plan to present their, I believe they plan to present their proposal after feedback from the department at the April CSB meeting. So at the May meeting, we may want to take a look at the work that they've done to see if, I know that that's something Carol was pushing for and others have pushed for over time, to do something for the committees to be more involved in the contracting process, particularly the statement of work. LaVoice for the group home, for the Irving Street contract, as Dina and Lynn gave me feedback, and Joe, that she incorporated a lot of the ideas into the statement of work. So to some extent, you have already been doing that, LaVoice. So it's just something that I just want to let folks know that we will piggyback off, or we will piggyback or take a look at what Mental Health Committee has done to see if, and again, that's all being done within the department with the folks who will make sure that while the state statute says that the CSBs are supposed to be involved in contracting, we don't want to do anything that is not going to be consistent. Our MOU also says that we will be consistent with Arlington County processes. So it's just something that's coming down the pike. Is there any other new business or comments or announcements? Deborah, you want to comment on that?
I just wanted to comment on that to say that whenever possible, we really do incorporate feedback, particularly from the CSB and from the specialized committees that take a deep dive into the particular area. I think that what the Mental Health Committee is asking for is a little bit more formalized. I am consulting with the county attorney on that issue. It's county attorney, risk management, purchasing are all involved in that mix. So it's not as simple as one would hope. But I will certainly let the Mental Health Committee know, and then we'll see where we are with that.
Okay, any other comments, any complaints about leaving 15 minutes early? Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Bertra? Do you second it, Barbara? All those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Okay, thank you everyone for participating. Please join us next month during spring break for the employment listen and learn. And then we'll reconvene in May. Thank you.
Excellent.
Bye, good night, everyone.
Night.
Bye.